Hi, I'm Lorrie. I am an artist based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and this is kind of my story of how I got started with fluid painting. In 2019, I have 3 boys, and my middle son started having seizures, and we didn't know why. And it was a really scary time in my life. Everything felt upside down, and I felt completely out of control. If you've ever experienced something like that with your child or loved one, you could probably relate that you just feel out of control. And it was the hardest, one of the hardest times of my life. But I can also point to it and say that is where so much of my life shifted. So much of our trajectory of our family shifted in that time. I had really been pressing in, asking the Lord for help, looking for Him in everything, and He was talking to me. He was so near. I would wake up in the middle of the night and go pray for my son, and I just felt guided in what I was doing. We would go sing songs in the kitchen, sing worship songs, and march around the kitchen, and it was a space for us to do warfare and just praise. And so that was really quite a pivotal time. I also went to a prayer night, and just background about me is I've always known the Lord as long as I can remember, but this was different. And I went to a prayer night and really just experienced the presence of the Lord in a way I never had before. I was crying, I was groaning, it was powerful, it was a complete loss of control. I had let go of control in that moment. It was like, whatever you want to do, Lord, I'm here, I'm desperate. And that moment is really like a memory stone for me of experiencing the Lord, realizing that He is way more present and way more real than I'd ever thought before. So fast forward a few months later, my son, praise the Lord, had stopped having seizures, and at the time he was on medication, but he's actually off of medication now and has been seizure free for over a year. And I'm so thankful to the Lord for that. But fast forward a few months later, I had gone to a retreat, and at the retreat, the Airbnb owner actually had left a grab bag for each attendee with a note, a Bible verse, and some treats. So we all just grabbed one, and the one that I received was, I'll show you. This is the one that I received on that day, and this was February of 2020, right before the world kind of shut down. It says, "Do not remember the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know of it? I will even make a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." And that's Isaiah 43:18-19. And she wrote, "You are ready," at the bottom. And I wasn't quite sure what that meant, but I knew that this was for me. I knew God was telling me that new things were coming and that I was ready, whether I felt ready or not. A few months later, the world shut down because of COVID-19, and we all had to slow down, whether we wanted to or not. And our church had released a video for parents with kids to try pour painting. And I had always loved pour painting. I had seen this method in painting before and really just loved it, but never thought that I could figure out how to do it myself. So because we had time and I homeschool and had my boys with me, I was like, well, let's try this. Let's try pour painting. And we did, and I fell in love with it. I loved the process. I loved that I was creating beautiful art, but didn't have to have all this huge skill set and training to be a detailed artist. I started, as I said, I started doing fluid painting and really just started painting at night on my own, even after the kids went to bed, because it was such a space of being able to process. I could process what had been happening with my son. I could process the world shutting down and how there was so much fear and unknowns with that. And one of the first paintings I created was this one. And this painting, to me, was a fail. I wanted my paints to be smooth, like the artist that I was watching online. I wanted the painting to look different than it did. And my husband said, well, why don't you just hang it on the wall and give it a little bit of time? Maybe you'll end up liking it. So I did. And I was sitting there looking at the painting one day and realized that white paint looks cracked, kind of like desert. And then it was just all of a sudden it hit me, like God was showing me that this was my river in the desert. Fluid painting was an avenue for me to find more of me and more of the Lord and more of healing, and to even get to share that now. And I just am amazed at where I started and where I am now and what fluid art has done for me. So I started to spend a lot more time in my studio, which was the garage, painting. It was often after my kids had gone to bed, and it was a place for me to process. I could process my son having seizures and feeling so out of control. The methodology of fluid painting, there's really not much control you have anyways, so it felt like I can create something beautiful out of not having control. And it was such a parallel to my life of not having control of my son having a seizure or not, but also seeing the beauty that was coming from sitting with that and being present and realizing that sometimes that's what life looks like. And so I started painting more and more. I started giving space for God to speak to me through the paintings, to see maybe there's a message in here for other people. And I started to share those online on social media, and was really blown away by how other people related to what I was sharing. They were experiencing breakthrough and overcoming anxiety even. I was able to share art with people that were grieving, and also just trying to navigate COVID-19 and what was going on there. We were all going through things. Both of my grandparents passed away during that time, and that was really hard, but I was able to process and create art even in that grieving. And now I'm getting to share that with other people, that this opportunity to be able to paint and process and honor your heart and honor what you're going through. And it doesn't matter if you are going out into the studio with joy or all the other emotions that we have that are part of the journey too. I love that fluid art has guidelines, but there's no hard rules. I can go out and know, all right, I've got my paints mixed, I've got a canvas, I'm just going to start. And I know that it can be really challenging for people to see that blank canvas and not know where to start. And fluid art is such a free, messy process that even if I start my painting and I don't like how it looks, I'll just keep working with it until I do. And you have time, because the paints take time to dry. So it, for me, is a place of worshiping, praying, processing, thinking about life, thinking about what emotions I have, and honoring that space. And afterwards, I have this beautiful art that's really signifying what life looks like. And it's helping other people too. I'm loving getting to share fluid painting with others. I have shared it with people that are retired who thought their whole lives that they weren't creative. People that their art teacher in elementary school told them that they didn't have any talent. And so they just completely tabled the idea that they could ever create anything beautiful. And it breaks my heart that so many people just think, I can't draw a stick figure. I hear that so much. I can't draw a stick figure. I don't know how to paint. I don't know how to create something beautiful. And it's such a mindset barrier to even try. Those are my favorite people to talk to that say, I can't even draw a stick figure, because if they will be brave enough to try fluid painting with me, they find that they create beautiful art. And it doesn't have to look like a particular scene. It's their creativity that they're releasing. I remember reading a book early on about creativity called Born to Create by Teresa Dedman. And she talks about how we are creative by design. Like, the creator of the universe has created each of us in his image. So we are by design creative. And that was such a unlock for me to realize, like, wow, I'm creative because I'm designed to be creative by the creator. And my art doesn't have to look like anyone else's art to still be unique and part of who I am, and part of the release to the world of, this is part of me and part of my heart. And that can be scary for people too, because they might be afraid of criticism. But abstract art and fluid art is a space where art is left up to interpretation, and it's not that you have to perform well to make it look like a particular scene. I love that about it. I think that everyone should try fluid art. It is such a freeing process. People call it their therapy. People that I've taught who go home and create their own space to paint, and paint through hard times, paint through pain, paint through joy. It's a space to be creative in a way that's really free. You create happy accidents, like Bob Ross talked about. There's so much experimenting that's allowed in fluid painting. I think everyone should try it. They will discover new parts of who they are, new parts of their heart, and realize that they can be creative and create beautiful things on canvas. People create beautiful things all the time. They might decorate their house. They might cook meals that they enjoy. They might bake. They might do mathematics, and that's creative. But for people to realize that they can create something beautiful on canvas is huge. And part of my mission is to spark creativity. I want people to know they're creative. They can be creative with paint, and they can create beautiful things through that. One of the first people that I shared fluid art with is my friend AJ. She could paint realistic art, but had felt like it wasn't something I don't know if it was something that she didn't feel she was good at anymore, or just didn't want to do, but she had put it down. And I challenged her one day at lunch to try fluid painting, try to be creative in that way. And I am super proud of her, because she pursued me and asked, can I come just sit in your studio and watch you paint? And I told her yes. And then when she came over, I said, here's your canvas, here's your materials, and here's your paint. Paint with me. And she did. And it was huge for her. She was able to process things that were going on in her life, things that were out of her control, and actually created her own studio space and has her own materials and created her own creative voice through fluid art after painting with me. And she came over several times, and we talked several times, and through that process she started painting on her own, and I am thrilled that I got to be a part of that, a part of her creativity coming to fruition in a new way. And it's just been amazing to see what she's creating now on her own. Another student that I adore, who's a dear friend of mine now, is named Marlene, and she's retired. She tried my fluid art class, and before she'd even come to my class, we talked on the phone, and she had said that she had tried to paint with a teacher and paint realistically, and the teacher just was not very encouraging, and she found it really off-putting. And I think she felt fear about trying out my class, not knowing what she was going to be getting. And I told her that fluid art is a space to experiment, be creative, have fun, and that I make it really approachable. And she tried my class and has returned to take many other classes with me, and has her own creative space in her home where she calls it her therapy. She paints all the time, and I'll go over and see that her walls are covered in her studio with paintings that she's created, that she gives to friends. She hangs them in her home, and she's always experimenting and trying new things and processing. And I'm just blown away by the opportunity to get to share something like fluid art with people that maybe never thought they were creative. You know, maybe they never thought they could create something beautiful. And Marlene's retired. She's slowing down in life in a lot of ways, and people can feel like, okay, this is kind of the end of my journey even, but this can be the start of your journey of discovering something new about who you are. And it's my joy and my privilege to get to share that with people, to get to share these tools that I've discovered that have been such a modality of healing for me, and getting to just see how other people are experiencing the process and the joy of creating and sharing that with other people too. Fluid painting is part of my therapy as well. I use it to process. I use it to pray, to think about what's happening in my life, to slow down. COVID-19 made us slow down a lot, but then life's been picking up since then. And fluid painting is a place where I can go out, get lost in time, and enjoy experimenting and creating and seeing what happens if I do this. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't expect that. And just flowing with the process. There's so much letting go that I have to do of control, and it is for me to just let go of control and realize that beauty comes from flowing with the process. And it's such a parallel to my life of when I let go, and me when I let God take over and we get to partner even in life. It's so much more beautiful than if I'm trying to white knuckle life and get the results that I think I should have and perform and make things look the way that I think they need to look, because I'm only in control of me and barely that. I can't control the people around me. I can be a encouragement and love and a safe place, but really control is a facade. And I've found so many of my students say like that fluid painting is such a space of letting go of control, and it can be challenging, but it's so rewarding to do that. Around the time I discovered fluid painting, I had been on a journey of heart healing on my own. I was going to biblical counseling and processing my journey in life. We've all got things that need to be processed that we can ignore or we can press into. And after my son had been having seizures and I just felt so out of control, I started going to counseling, and it helped tremendously. I also was learning more about my identity. I am a daughter of the Lord, and I don't have to perform. I don't have to do anything to be his kid. And just learning more about that. And along with that, as I've been on this journey of fluid painting and being a full-time artist with my husband, I have realized I really need some help in processing my emotions and communicating well, communicating from emotion and things going sideways. So my husband Isaac and I started going to couples counseling with Connection Code's founder, Dr. Glenn Hill, and it was a huge unlock for us to recognize that we have emotions. We don't get to pick them, but we do get to pick what we're going to do with them next. And through our journey of becoming more emotionally healthy, we have learned so much about ourselves, about each other. We've known each other since we were in middle school, and there's things about my husband and about myself that I am just now discovering that I don't think I would have if we hadn't learned to slow down and honor our emotions. In life, we start off processing our emotions really well. As babies, we cry because we have a need. And we don't care if it's 3 a.m. and our parents are sleeping. We cry because we have a need and process the emotion really well. But through life, that starts to shut down through maybe it's culture, upbringing, teachers. It can be all those things. We start to think, okay, crying isn't a good thing. Crying means I'm out of control. Anger is a bad thing. In church, we're taught fear is evil. And I had all that kind of twisted in my mind and was really wrestling with, what do I do with these emotions? Isaac and I, because we had felt so passionate about what we've been learning with the Connection Codes, have trained to be Connection Codes coaches so that we can help other people learn that their emotions aren't bad, that emotions are good. Emotions are indicators that something's going on in our hearts, in our minds, and it's a simple framework. It's 8 core emotions that scientists have recognized that our brain processes and needs to process. So there's a very simple core emotion wheel with 8 core emotions, and part of the Connection Codes is going through those emotions daily, practicing, when did I last feel hurt? When did I last feel fear? And telling that to someone else, or if you don't have someone else there, even processing with yourself or with the Lord. But just recognizing, what does it feel like? What does it feel like in my body? What does it feel like in my mind to have this emotion, so that in real time, maybe you're feeling fear and it comes out, looks like anger. You can slow down and say, what's happening for me right now? I'm afraid. And then process it. And then you're a better version of yourself because you're not stuck in this emotional cyclone of not realizing what's happening for yourself, maybe blaming other people. Maybe your communication just really isn't where it needs to be because you don't realize that you've got these emotions that you think are bad or just don't know how to process. So fluid art and core emotions actually go really well together, because through fluid art, you have to slow down and mix the paints and go in the studio and process. Like, you might stare at a blank canvas and think, I'm feeling a lot of fear right now. I don't know where to start. Or I'm feeling so much joy because I'm free. I can just create and have fun. So I love that fluid art is a place where we can slow down, be creative, and process what's happening for the day, what's been happening. It's how I started, was processing. This is just fun. And that place where you have to let go of control and realize emotions are happening to you. You don't get to pick. You don't get to pick if you feel guilt or not. Even if someone says, oh, don't feel guilt, I don't get to choose that. What I do get to choose, though, is processing it and realizing I'm feeling guilt. And I feel guilt because I didn't text that person back. Or I feel guilt because I missed it with my kids. And knowing that it's okay to be a human. It's okay to miss it. It's okay to have these emotions. And they're healthy and they're telling us something. So I'm happy to get to combine this emotional health and regulation with creativity and a space where people can create something beautiful, even out of feeling fear or guilt or anger. Whatever you go into the studio feeling, you can still create something beautiful, because each of these emotions matter. They're important. Joy is not the only good emotion. So joy is not the only good emotion. I hear that a lot. Like, why is joy the only good emotion on the core emotion wheel? Well, they're all important. They're all good in their own way. We feel sadness because something was lost that we loved or enjoyed. We feel anger because we're passionate about change. Anger is a motivator. It's really important, actually, for us to have these emotions. Not say, well, I don't know the last time I was angry, or fear is evil. I don't want to have fear. Like, fear also is an indicator to tell us, hey, you need to drive slower around that curve in the mountain. Like, fear is telling you that. Fear is a good thing too. So I love that fluid art helps to unlock a space where you can slow down, be creative, honor whatever's happening for you in that moment, and create beautiful art and experiment and know that it's a space for you to just be you, to be fully you. You don't have to hide anything. You don't have to suppress anything. You just get to be you.